welcome, and we'll of course start with a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And we are starting a new book today. And let me see if I can. All right, let me do something here. I can see what I. Just take me a second to do what I need to do so that it comes out the way I want it to come out on the share. And here we are. Voila. The book of BMidbar. So, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe b'midbar Sinai ba'ohel moed. Hashem spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tent of meeting, and we are given a date. Be'echad lachodesh hasheni, on the first day of the second month, b'shana hashenit, in the second year, let's say tam me'eretz Mitzrayim, of the second year of their departure from the land of Egypt, saying. So, Golda, we had talked some weeks ago about how long the Israelites encamped at the foot of Mount Sinai, and we now have an answer to this question.
Woo!
Right? So
all answers are there. You just have to be.
So the answer was, of course, that they arrived at Mount Sinai. I believe I'd have to go back and actually check in the book of Exodus. Shira Beth, if you want to take a quick look at Parshat Yitro, where I think it tells you, I don't have Parshat Yitro because I don't have Exodus in front of me, but it tells you when they arrived in Midbar Sinai. So it might have been 2 months or a month after they left Egypt. I'm not certain. I think it was maybe the first day of the month. He'll check and see. So we've got from that moment of their arriving at the wilderness of Sinai to this particular moment, which would be over a year, I believe, or close to a year, depending on when they arrived. All right, I'm going to keep going now with the Rashi. Vaydaber, so spoke. BMidbar Sinai be'echad lachodesh. He's just introducing this. When there were books of just the Rashi, not set up the way this is, this would have told you. You would have had a book of the Torah text, and you would have had a book of Rashi's text, and this would have told you where we were in his commentary.
Hey, I found that.
Okay, go for it.
It is in Yitro. It's just a little further down. It says, on the third new moon, after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt on that very day, this is 19.
Okay.
They entered the wilderness of Sinai.
There we go. So they've been here now 11 months. 11 months.
Okay.
So we know the answer to the question.
Woohoo!
Yep. Glad I remembered the question.
Maybe 11 months and 5 days.
No, it says no. It says because they.
Okay, I'm just reading something that says that, but maybe it's not.
Oh well, maybe, but it's. Let's see. All right. I'm not sure. No.
About a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty close.
And we're calling it the second month by starting with.
Yeah, but it says Echad Lachodesh. It says the first day of the month, and as far as the passage in Yitro is concerned, it's telling you that they arrived in that month, right? The first day of that month. Different. So
they arrived in the third month. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was like, so now we're on the second month, so it's whatever. Yeah.
It's 11 months. It's 11 months later.
Yeah.
Right, if my arithmetic is correct. Going on. BMidbar Sinai be'echad lachodesh. Right, in the wilderness of Sinai on the first day of the month. Mitoch chibatan, on account of his love, or the desirability, lefanav. Okay, in other words, he loved the Jewish people because God loved the Israelites before him. Moneh otam kol sha'ah, he would count them frequently. Kesheyatzu mimitzrayim. So when they left Egypt, when they departed Egypt, he counts them. Mina'am, he counted them. Ukeshenaflu be'egel mina'am. And when a bunch of them, of course, fell after the sin were killed after the sin regarding the golden calf, he counted them. Leida minayin hanotarim, to know, or I should say, minyan hanotarim, to know the amount of the remaining, how many remained. Ukesheba lahashrut shchinato alehem, and when he came to cause his divine presence to dwell upon them, mina'an, he counted them. Be'echad b'Nisan, so this is happening now, of course. Be'echad b'Nisan, on the first of Nisan, hukam hamishkan, the Mishkan was erected, set up. Uve'echad be'iyar mina'an, and the very next month, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, right? And on the first day of Iyar, he counted them. Gave the command to count them, right? Se'u et rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael. So se'u literally means to lift up, but here, I think it means to individually count the head of all the congregation of the children of Israel. So what it is saying is to take a census. That's what it's saying in simple English. Lemishbechotam, according to their families. Levet avatam, according to literally their fathers' houses. B'mispar shemot, according to the number of names. Kol zachar legulgalotam, every male according to their poles, right, head, the head of each one. That is sense of head not as being the leader, but head simply being your skull, something like that, right? Lemishbechotam, da minyan kol shevet v'shevet. So according to their families means know the count of each and every tribe. Work it out. Levet avotam, according to their ancestral home. Mi she'aviv mishevet echad, working it out this way. One whose father was from a certain tribe, ve'imo mishevet acher, and his mother from a different tribe, yakum al shevet aviv, he should be established by his father's tribe. Legulgalotam, according to their polls. Al yedei shkalim, meaning by means of the shekels, the machatzit hashekel, the half shekel. Beka legulgulet. Beka was the name given to 1/2 shekel. Legulgulet, per head, a half a shekel per head. So the gulgulatam is referring to the mitzvah of using the half shekels as a way to count them. Mi ben esrim shana, from 20 years old, vamala, and upwards, kol yotzei tzava b'Yisrael, all who go out literally in the army of Israel, who is going to be enlisted, in other words. Tifkedu otam, you should count them, letziv otam, according to their, literally, we use the Old English word hosts, but it really means armies. That's an old-fashioned English word that means armies. Ata v'Aharon, you and Aaron are responsible for this. So it's 20 years old and up. Kol yotzei tzava, all who go out in the army. Magid, so this tells us, she'ein yotzei b'tzava pachot mi ben esrim, that you're not allowed to go out as in the army, you're not allowed to serve in the army if you're less than 20 years old. That's the minimum age. Just interesting, right? Just comparison. Ve'itchem yiyu, and with you there will be ish lemate, a man, each man according to his tribe. Ish Rosh, that is to say, the man who is the head, Rosh Levet Avotavhu, who is a head of that, that ancestral home. So what it's really talking about is the tribal head, the tribal leader. And you'll see they're named. And so what happens now is that Moses and Aaron have to take the 12 tribal leaders, and altogether they take the census. So Rashi's going to, I believe, mention this. You don't have the tribal leader of Reuven counting the tribe of Reuven, or the tribal leader of Dan counting the tribe of Dan. They're all doing it together. And of course, I think the assumption is, of course, that it be done legitimately and that there not be any messing around with the numbers. I thought that was sort of interesting, that they were anticipating, in a sense, questioning whether those numbers were accurate. So this way, everybody's in on it. It's all transparent. We're doing it legitimately. Let me think. So what we see here is, and I like to say this, that the book of Numbers, in a sense, is a book of tragedy. We start off, really, the first few parshiot are very, very positive. And then when we get to the middle of the book and we get to Parshat Shlach Lecha, it all falls apart. Because clearly here, they are planning on entering the land of Israel.
So you're talking about Exodus or Numbers?
Numbers.
Okay.
Did I say Exodus?
No, you said Numbers. Because
okay.
we're doing Exodus,
Right.
aren't we?
No, we're doing Numbers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is the book of Numbers we're studying, the opening of the book of Numbers.
I'm confused. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Well, it's okay. The chronology isn't all that straightforward. And here we are. We're ready to go in. They've left Egypt. The Egyptians are taken care of. They've arrived at Mount Sinai. They've received the Torah. They've constructed the tabernacle. They've installed the priesthood. And now they're ready to enter the land of Israel. And to understand that the 40 years of wandering is plan B. That is not plan A. This is plan A. We're reading plan A right now. And I promise you, I don't even know that it would have taken them a year to get to the land of Israel. Maybe so that they weren't marching constantly, but it wouldn't have come anywhere close to 40 years. And because of their lack of faith, because that's what it had to do with, it had to do with not trusting God. And then they pay a terrible price for it. And there are a whole bunch of other examples, like the mutiny of Korach. We have all these other examples of what happens as we move towards the end of the book of Numbers. So it's sad. You know, summer is when we read the book of Numbers, and summer is a sad time in America, summer is a happy time. But the truth is, summer back then, and maybe even now, is if you look at armies and the warring going on, what was the best time for an army to march out to do battle? Summertime. And if you read some of the history of battles and wars, you realize, of course, that weather plays a huge, huge part in all of it. You look at D-Day, for example, or you look at the German campaign or Napoleon's campaign against Russia and having to face the Russian winter. So summer's a good time. And that's what, good time for that.
Summer's very hard in this climate.
But even so, Tisha B'Av happens in the summer. It's still better. The ground isn't wet, and they still, as hot as it could get. And I realize that does seem to be the time when people go out when the countries that were planning on developing their empires would go out and fight other countries. I'm sure they're
The month of Tammuz
yes,
in the summer, in the heat of the
yes,
summer, is
right.
named after some kind of a death god from Persia or something like that.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, thank you. Yeah. So now we're going to have their names. So interesting. And there may be greater significance, if we were to study midrashim and things like that, to the actual names. But they're, at the very least, of course, we know that mentioning their names gives them a certain level of importance. The Ele Shmot HaAnashim. These are the names of the people. I want to make sure I took. Yep. All right, here we go. We've got the Rashi for verse 4. The itchem yihu, and with you shall be, keshetifkedu otam yihu. So when you count them, yihu imachem nasi kol shevet v'shevet. So Rashi takes the somewhat circumlocution of the Torah text and just tells us straightforward that when you count them, with you shall be the head, the nasi, the prince, the leader of each and every shevet, each and every tribe. And we're going to go through the names. The Ele Shmot HaAnashim, these are the names of the people. Asher Ya'amdu Imachem, who will stand with you. LeRuven, to Reuven, Elitzur ben Shteur. So I don't think I have to translate this for you. I think you can figure it out, what it's saying. So Reuven, Shimon, tribe of Shimon, Shlumiel ben Surishadai, Lihuda, Nachshon ben Aminadav. We've heard of Nachshon already, clearly the head of the tribe of Judah. LeYisachar, Netanel ben Tzuar, Lizvulun, Eliav ben Chelon, Livnei Yosef, for the children of Joseph. Remember, the stock of the tribe of Joseph was so good, it split into two tribes. So, LeEphraim, for Ephraim, Elishama ben Amihud, the Menashe, and for Menashe, right, the two sons of Joseph, who Jacob blessed by saying they would be counted amongst his own sons. Menashe, Gamliel ben Pedatsur, LeVinyamin, Avidan ben Gidoni, LeDan Achiezer ben Amishadai, LaAsher Pagiel ben Ochran, LeGad Eliasaph ben Deuel, LeNaftali Achira ben Enan. So the listing of the children would appear to go according to their mothers. In other words, we first of all have Leah's children, and then we have Rachel's children, and I'm going to guess that we have, that we have Rachel's children, and then Bilhah's children, and then Zilpah's children. That's how it's listed here. Ele Kri'e Ha'edah, there's a Ketiv and a Kri. These are the elect of the community. Nisi'e, the leaders, Matot Avotam, of the tribes of their father's houses. Rashi, the heads of Alfei Yisrael Haim. They were the heads, or they are the heads of the thousands of Israel. Let's make sure I am not leaving anything out here. Yep, here we go. Ele Kru'e Ha'edah. That's how it's written, right? Hanikraim lechol davar, they would be summoned lechol davar chashivut, for any important matter sheba'edah, involving the community. They're the responsible ones. So we're getting some little picture of how the leadership operated there. Vayikach Moshe v'Aaron, and Moses and Aaron took et ha'anashim, the ha'ele, these people, asher nikvu b'shemot, which nikvu actually could be translated in two ways, but were established by name, or who had been established by name. So let's take a look at these.
They got designated.
Okay, thank you.
They have designated, if that's better.
It's good. It's good. I can write it up. 1 second.
Okay.
See if I can get to do this. So this is going to work. Try this again. Yep, there it is. Get by with all the help I can use.
You got it.
Yeah. The limitations of this. All right, let's see if I can, if this will work. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah. Rashi. Hanashim ha'ele, these people. Et shneim asar nesiim halalu. We're referring to these 12 people, these 12 princes. Asher nikvu lokan, which were designated here for him by name. And the reason why Rashi, I was looking as I was preparing this material, the translator points out that the word nikvu could be the PL form, which would mean which they, implying, I would think, Moses and Aaron designated, but it's actually Rashi wants us to understand that it's God, and that we should understand this as a nif'al form, meaning a passive form, so that this word actually should be understood passively, meaning word designated by Hashem. Maybe a technical grammatical point, but it does have a different meaning. Yes?
I'm
Okay.
just concerned about where that little note you put in. Do you have to click outside of that to keep? There you go. Looks like
Yep.
it's fine now. I
Yep.
was concerned about it disappearing.
Yes, no. I'm grateful that that preview allows me to do these things.
Yeah.
It's a very handy tool.
Mhm.
Going on, Ve'et kol ha'edah, and the entire community, hikhilu, they gathered together, be'echad lachodesh hashini, on the first day of the second month. So look at this. God tells them to do this, and boom, 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 it happens on the very same day. Vayit yaldu al yes. Vayit yaldu al mishbechotam levet avotam. So this vayit yaldu, right? Hitpael form. So it means it has to sort of mean yalad has to do with birth, right? So it means this one word looks like it's going to take a whole bunch of words to translate it, right? In other words, the way they gathered, right, the way they were organized was according to their families and the ancestral homes. Remember, we've been explaining that in this case, because it says Levet Avotam, it means that their status was dependent on their paternity.
Yeah, it says here they declared their pedigrees according to their family. So they're
okay.
using for that one word, declared
Right.
their pedigrees.
Yeah, so that's, I think it's a very creative way of translating it, and it sounds good. And we'll take a look at, and you'll see how it reflects Rashi. B'mispar shemot, according to the number of names, miven isrim shana v'mala, 20 years old and up, the gulgulotam, according to their polls. So here's Rashi helping us to understand. Vayit yaldu al mishpachotam. Rashi knows this word vayit yaldu is a difficult one to exactly understand. So he says, Heviu sifrei yechusehem. They brought documents, I'll translate sifrei, scrolls if you want, but documents of their genealogy, of their pedigree. Ve'edei cheskat leidatam, and witnesses to declare their birth, who they were born to. Kol echad ve'echad, each and every one, lehityaches al hashevet, so that they could be related to that particular, they would be associated with that particular tribe. So there's quite a little bit of insight here that Rashi is sort of trying to give us a reality check into how this had to be done. That it wasn't just a simple matter. They had to do it accurately, and so they had to bring evidence of the paternity and all this kind of thing. In our society, that's not so important, but in many other societies, your pedigree is extremely important. So
I remember reading a book about, I think it was Somalian, in Somalia.
yes,
It's part of the culture there for every child to learn how to recite their ancestry many, many generations back.
yes,
So
yes.
It's just part of it's an oral culture though. I mean, maybe Rashi is imposing his written culture on this, but this sounds like an oral custom.
Well, I couldn't really say for sure. They clearly have writing here.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
does say
quite
she's
possibly
brave.
that they do that. I know that amongst Hasidim, and maybe all Hasidim, that they are able to trace their genealogies, that keeping it in a sense, being able to trace your genealogy sets your place.
Yichus.
Yes, that's the word, and it means liaches means to relate to. So
But we have, by the way, one more verse of this chapter with
right.
no Rashi on it.
There we go. Okay, we'll take care of it. Ka'asher tziva Hashem et Moshe, just as Hashem had commanded Moses, vayifkadem BMidbar Sinai, and they counted them he counted them in the wilderness of Sinai. And I'm going to stop the share here and invite you to comment if any of you would like to. And it's so nice to see Barb here too. So.
Yeah, I was confused about BMidbar. I know Shemot is Exodus, but BMidbar, when I translate it, I think of Exodus. So that's why I.
So of course,
and we talked a little bit about what was going on in Yitro, so that might have helped.
Right. In a sense, it's a continuation of what we left off. In a way, we took a major byway to discuss many details regarding from the construction of the Mishkan, and Leviticus by and large is a manual of how the Mishkan needs to be used and how it needs to be treated. So we've taken a sort of long detour, and now we're back in the chronological setting that follows Yitro.
Back to the story.
Yes, back to the story.
Oh, I like how that beginning and ending there, that whole section, it was like you had to write an essay.
Yeah.
It said what it was going to do, you did it, and then it told you what you did.
Yeah, that's important.
It is.
The list of names, it's dramatic to me how in that list of names, some of them are very popular names still now now in Israel, and some of them you never hear.
Yeah.
And one of them that you never hear is Shlomiel.
Yeah, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, how did Shlomiel, does anyone know how Shlomiel got to be like Shlomiel, got to be like a name you would never give your kid?
That is a good question. And whether in fact it really is related, right?
Which
or is it
Shlomiel was a Shemiel,
I don't think so.
It's like nowadays they would say, oh, Eze Yoram. Now, Yoram is a perfectly nice name, but really, if you're hoping to make Aliyah, or don't name your kid Yoram. Just not.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to stop the recording. Yeah, go ahead, Jar.
Do you think we'll have a dearth of Karens in this generation?
I didn't catch the name.
I think we already do. Karen is already not that popular name for these days.
Yeah.
What?
I mean,
But there
the
are some
Karens that are being
names
referred
do
to,
not do.
the Karens that are being referred to are probably most of them, 40 or over.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Oh, yeah, but
It could
I'm
have